What is up, guys? Today we are going to be talking about my birth story.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like.
Everyone in the house is sleeping, including the dog right now, so I'm gonna be a little bit more quiet on here than normal. I did make some notes just because I'm trying to get everything pieced together as much as possible. I'm gonna explain a little bit more, but it's kind of blurry. This is kind of a blurry memory. So first, I'm just gonna give you the rundown on what I expected for my birth, because we all go in there with a birth plan, we have birth wishes, and we have a way that we intend or want our labor and delivery to go. What I had in my mind is that I wanted a vaginal delivery, and I wanted everything to be done completely natural. If I could have birthed and labored at home, that would have been what I wanted, all the way through, and had a midwife. That was my number one pick. And obviously, well, not obviously, but around here, our town is so small when it comes to this whole area of labor and delivery that we just don't have the services to be able to have midwives. I even tried to go to the States and get services through them, but I wasn't able to do that just because the people weren't answering me, and I was trying to reach out, and I reached out so many times. I was sending emails to a bunch of different addresses, and I just heard nothing back from them, so I wasn't able to do that. And this would have been birthing on a farm, so it was super hippy dippy experience. And then I was screw it. Last minute I tried to move. So in our province, we have one city, and if you live in that city within half an hour of a certain hospital, you might qualify for midwife services. And so I told them I was moving, which of course really wasn't true. I wanted to just move for that, and I would have just rented a house for that. That way I could just go there, give birth, have the birth that I wanted, and then move back home. So I tried messaging them, and then they said for July that they were full. So I was okay, all right, then whatever. I guess the universe did not intend me to do this. So I was you know what, I'm just gonna surrender to the universe, because I did everything on my side to try to make my dream come through. But you're about to find out why that didn't work like that. So it was August 2nd. I was at 40 weeks and 6 days. They had been trying to induce me for a whole month. They started talking induction around 37 weeks because that's when the baby was fully cooked. And I was my body hasn't kicked him out yet, so he's not fully cooked, so let him have his time, whatever. And I had an appointment the next day. I had to call at 7, and I had to be there at 8 a.m. to go see the OB, because I was no longer allowed in the clinic that they follow you for your pregnancy. And so after 41 weeks, they cut you off from that clinic, and then you have to go directly to see the OB who specializes in that. And then they do what's called a non-stress test to see how much amniotic fluid you have, how your baby's doing, how your health is. They do some blood work to make sure that all of your iron levels and everything that is essential for you and baby to be healthy is good. And then they determine if it is safe on a medical standpoint for you to continue with the pregnancy, or if they need to start looking into induction. For me, I was really, really scared. I'm gonna make another video about this. I'm probably gonna do one a month that talks about pregnancy, because it's not my main thing, but I definitely want to have all of these memories and everything here. So I'm gonna do one on my emotions going into labor and before labor, and then I'm gonna talk on my postpartum journey as well, because there is some information that I'd like to share that no one on here shares. I was looking for it myself, and I'm it's not on YouTube. So my water broke at 3 p.m. the day before we had that appointment. I was sitting on my couch looking at YouTube videos, learning about day trading, and I was oh my god, that's the feeling that they mean, because they said when your water breaks, you know. And I thought that my water broke a week or two before, because I had I don't know, I was just wet. I was what the fuck is this? And I had gotten a stripping done at the hospital that day, and then my underwear was just wet 5 times that day, and I'm I am not peeing myself. I don't understand. Did my water break? And then anyways, I like kind of moved on. It was funny because I thought that happened like in the middle of the night, and I told my boyfriend about it, and he's like, let's figure that out in the morning. And I was like, you're right. And then we both went back to bed, so we were super chill about it. But I guess that wasn't it, because this feeling was undeniable. I was sitting on my couch, and I just bought a new couch. And it's funny because I made the comment before. I was like, I really hope that my water does not break on this couch. And like, I just don't want whatever that is. Like, I don't want my amniotic fluid all over my couch. So I actually put the fabric protector on it. Like, I sprayed it on a few weeks before, and I was just like kind of worried about my couch. Anyways, so my water broke, and I quickly waddled on over to my bathroom, and I made it there. So I was like super thankful for that I didn't have like my amniotic fluid everywhere. In the bathroom was another story though, because I started shaking because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. Like, this is actually happening. And I was like, just like all of this adrenaline was like rushing through me, and I was so nervous. And then my coping mechanism to deal with the fact that I'm scared is that I make myself laugh. And so I'm in there trying to put on a fucking diaper because I bought diapers. And I'm going to talk about that in my postpartum journey because I think I am so smart for doing that. The hospital around here, they have like these mesh underwear, and then they put basically a training pad for a dog. If you don't know what I mean, this thing, they fold it up and put it in your underwear. I was looking at them like, fuck that, my friend. We are not doing that. They're great for the changing table though. That I can get behind. So anyways, they put that, and then they put like another pad on top of it, and then you walk around with like, I don't know, like a double-decker sandwich in your pants. That's just not a vibe for me. So anyways, I bought a huge pack of adult diapers from Costco, and I do not regret it. So I was shaking, I was nervous, and your girl is 160 pounds, 5'2". I'm huge, okay, when I'm full term. And I'm trying to put this fucking damn diaper on. It's the hardest thing. I'm laughing. I'm getting my amniotic fluid everywhere. My floor is wet. And like, if this is TMI for you, you're watching the wrong video, because pregnancy is TMI, and it's literally a whole human coming out of your vajay. So you're gonna have to move along if you're not all right with that. And yeah, your girl was praying. So I'll talk about my emotions before labor in another video, but I've been praying about this for such a long time, and I was praying then, and I was like so nervous. So I reached out to our doula, because we had hired a doula for our labor and delivery, and then also after to help us out. Sorry, distraction. And I reached out to her, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And then she's like, well, you definitely need to call the hospital and like let them know, because they're like the experts in that. And I was like kind of hesitant, because it's like, fuck, like, I don't know, I don't want to do this right now. Like, I was happy watching my YouTube videos, and now I'm scared. And then it came over me, and I was like, this is happening. Like, this is like, it's game time. So I called the hospital, and they were like, you need to come in. Like, don't rush, but you need to come in. And so I'm like, holy fuck, like, this is actually happening. So I started like thinking, checking the list that I had for my birth bag, because it was already packed, but I wanted to make sure I had everything. I packed some snacks. I called Gael, and I called him, and I was like, this is happening, we need to go to the hospital. I guess that's all I said. I never told him that my water broke, because I told him later, and he was like, you never told me that. And I was like, sorry, wasn't looking to give you the full details at that point. I was just looking to get my point across. And he was out, so he came back. He wasn't far, which was nice. And when I hung up my phone, I looked at the time, and it was 3:33. And I was like, thank God. Like, that was my first angel number that I had. And I was just like, oh, like, we're on the right path. I literally just got shivers all over. I was like, we're on the right path. This is working. We're in alignment. Thank you, God. Like, thank you, my guardian angels, everyone, for supporting me in this moment. Funny enough, actually, that day we had a power outage. It was planned. I knew about it, and I had this funny feeling. I was like, you know what? I think that this power outage is going to be an inconvenience, because I'm probably going to go into labor, and then he's probably going to be born on the 3rd, because the 3rd is my lucky number. Sitting here, and there's no humming of anything. The AC isn't on. The fridge isn't on, and so there's no background of like of anything. There's nothing charging. The power's out 100%. There's only power in the building to make like our elevators work, and that's it. And then I hear And then the door is opening, and then Gaia is running, and he's like, oh my god, this is happening. And then he's like panicking, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, at this point, I've like calmed myself down, and he's like running everywhere. He's like opening doors. And then I look at him, and I'm like, honey. And then he's like, what? And I'm like, can you calm down? He's like, okay. And then he's like trying to like pack his bag because he didn't pack shit before. Like, he's like total opposite. For me, I had like a list, I had a spreadsheet. I was like doing a survey, finding out what everyone had in their birth bag and like packing mine. And then I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, what if I have a big baby? I should pack him like 1 to 3 month clothes, and then I'll have like my newborn clothes. Maybe you won't fit in the newborn clothes, so I'll bring this. I was thinking about all these things, and I was like thinking about the drive there and everything. So we're in the car, we're about to leave, and it's funny because I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot my Yeti, and it had like my pregnancy tea in it. And then he's like, do you want me to turn around and get it? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I totally forgot that the elevator was like not working as well because our power's out, and so it goes super slow. And anyways, I sent him back, and I'm like kind of panicking, and I'm like, God, like, can you help me out in this moment? Because I'm kind of worried that I made the wrong decision to send him back there. And maybe I don't know how fast this is going to progress. Like, I wasn't really having contractions, but they had kind of started. But I wasn't having contractions before my water broke. And then they had like kind of started. I was like feeling uncomfortable, but in the end of your pregnancy, you're just uncomfortable, period. Like, it doesn't matter. Even if you're just breathing or just being, you are uncomfortable. And I was like sitting there in my car in the passenger seat, which is just a weird position to be in. And I'm like, can the universe help me out? And then I look out the window, and there is all out a lady trying to park her car. This guy is literally fucking hitting his car off of the fence. He just did it twice in a row. Do you see that black thing? He just scratched the shit out of his car. I'm literally in labor right now, and this is my view. You can do it, sir. My God, he's gonna hit the fence again. Update on the car that's scratching the shit out of itself. It was a girl driving, and now it all makes sense. Really, like, all the way down the fucking fence. And I'm like, thanks, God. Like, you just did me a solid, because now I think that this is hilarious, and I am distracted by whatever this lady is doing. So I'm like, oh my God, is she gonna notice? What is she doing? No. And I'm having this dialogue going in my head. So yeah, she just keeps on going with her fucking day. And I was like, you know what? All right. So we left at the hospital, and I was just like, I was really happy. I was nervous and I was happy. I was feeling all the feelings. And as we're going, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to come back, and there's going to be a baby in the car, in that seat, not in my seat, not in me, like in that seat. And it's just mind blowing. And I feel like my brain still hasn't even gotten over the fact that I'm pregnant, which is weird. But anyways, so 4 or 5 p.m. we're at the hospital, and this is still August the 2nd right now. As soon as I walk in, the doctor, well, not as soon as, but like we walk in, we get our shit, whatever. I turn on my birth affirmations. We start making everything a vibe in our room. I call in our doula. She gets us set up, and then the doctor comes in shortly after, and she's like, well, since your water is broken, the risk of infection is existing, and it's going to keep on getting higher as we let this go on. We need to get this baby out stat. And she's like short, and she has an attitude. And I'm like, that looks familiar. And I'm like, it's like a little me. And she's standing way too close to me and talking way too loud. And I'm like, wonder if I do that. Yeah, probably. Anyway, so I'm just having like this full circle moment where I'm like, oh my God, it's like me as a doctor. And it's funny because I actually started my pre-med. So anyways, I was like having a moment there, and she was like, you know what? I want to have this done within 12 hours. And I'm like thinking, you're stressing me the fuck out right now. So she was talking induction. She wanted to do Pitocin right off of the bat to get shit like moving along. And I just wanted to let my body do what my body was doing. So I didn't want a cervical check. I didn't want an induction. I didn't want pain management. I didn't want anything like that. And to me, an epidural was like a fuck no. And I even wrote that on my birth plan. Epidural is a fuck no. And I told my doula, I was like, I'd rather die. So we labored for 14 hours. And what happened during that 14 hours was we were like doing power pumping sessions where I had like the breast pumps on and I was collecting colostrum at that point. We were like storing it in the freezer and I was getting quite a decent amount, but actually a little bit less than I would have gotten at home because I was feeling quite stressed out about this whole thing. We were walking around, we were like doing like curb walking on the stairs. We were walking up the stairs, which felt like basically running a marathon. It was a lot. I birthed in the tub for a while, which was really, really nice. That was like an intimate moment. And Gaila and I were in there alone, so that was really, really, that was like one of my favorite parts of labor. And after 14 hours of continuously doing this shit, I was pretty fucking tired, to be completely honest with you. And I was just getting discouraged. I got checked again, and I didn't even want to be getting checked, but I understood my part of it, where I'm like, I don't want to be checked. I just want to let my body do what my body's doing. But then also, I'm more of like a stats and results lady. I need stats, I need results, and I need to make a spreadsheet about it, okay? And so my doctor's like, well, I need to see if you're progressing. And I'm like, I don't know how to say no to you, because you know what? If I was in my position, I want to say no, but if I was in your position, I would hate it for people to say no to me. It's like people that want to lose weight but don't want to track their calories, or people that like fucking don't want to take progress pictures at the start. I'm like, you're just being a fucking bitch. Like, move along with your fucking life, okay? So I was like, you know what? We're gonna move along with our fucking lives, and I'm gonna get this stupid goddamn cervical exam, even though I don't want to, okay? So we did. And I am 2.5 centimeters dilated. And for those of you that don't know, we need to get to 10 to push this bitch out, okay? And 2.5, well, you're not doing too shit hot. You need to get to like fucking 3 to be in active labor. So technically I'm not even in active labor, and I'm already fucking exhausted, okay? And just beside myself. She's still like, we need to induce you. We need to get this shit going, because we're past the 12-hour mark, and past the 12-hour mark, well, the risk of infection is increasing and whatever, and no. Like, we gotta get this baby out. Let's go. And I'm like, I like you. Like, I like you because you're like me, but I don't like the feeling because I'm acting like a little bitch right now, and I'm just trying to be avoidant to what actually just needs to be done, and we need to just move through this. So I was like, at hour 14, finding out where I was like, you know what, let's do it. But if we're doing an induction, which basically is Pitocin, I was like, I need pain management for that, because it takes your contractions from a normal point and brings them way up. And she was trying to explain to me that it's still like your body doing it. But anyways, to me, I had decided before, if I needed to get induced, I'm going to get pain management. So at that point, I was like, what is in your drug cabinet? And then they were like, an array of selection. And they were explaining the different drugs that I could be taking. And I started with laughing gas, which is nitrous oxide. And then we did a morphine injection. And then that got me into the next few hours. The pain was fucking insane. And also, it was so much worse because I'm so exhausted. So I went into labor at 3 p.m., but I think I was up at like 5 or 6 that morning. So now it's like, I don't even know what time it is, but you can figure it out and do the math. Wait a minute, let me do the math. 3, 4, 5, it's like 5 a.m. So yeah, so it's basically 24 hours. How does that make any sense? It's 14 hours. Okay, yeah, it was 24 hours since I woke up. All right, okay, that's when my hair's blonde. Moving on. Okay, so it had been like 24 hours that I'd been up. I'm exhausted and everything is hurting more. Like, it's more intense, right? That's why, like, when you have a cold or something, or you have some kind of like pain, it's always worse at night and like directly in the morning, because you're more exhausted. And then when you get into your day and then you're like, you know, things are pumping, they're moving along, then you feel way better. But I was not feeling way better. I was feeling like asshole. So they gave me morphine. I was like, morphine's a stupid drug because it's not even fun. and they gave me laughing gas. And I was like, you know what? I like this stuff, okay? It was great. Comes with a little mask, makes me happy. Fast forward, because I don't really remember what was going on at this point in time. At some point during this right here until the fast forward point, I ended up getting fentanyl put in my IV. I ended up getting it. Okay, yeah, it's at this point. So I spent 4 hours in transition, which is the hardest part of labor, and I was 8 centimeters dilated, and I was staying at 8 centimeters dilated. Oh my God, okay? They were injecting fentanyl as much as they could every 15 minutes, which is as often as they could, into my IV, and it was not making a difference. And I was huffing the laughing gas because I had the mask and I had the power in my hand, and your girl was using it. So I would shut my eyes and cartoons would appear. It was not my normal thoughts. I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm pretty fucked up. So at this point, contractions had no break, and I thought I was dying. Like, I was like, this is how I go out. And it was like a never-ending hell, and I didn't know how to like make it stop. It was brutal. Also, another thing that's kind of sitting in the back of my mind is 2 women had like come in, and you can hear them because this is probably the loudest ward in the hospital, because there's a bunch of women screaming for their lives and like another life. You know what I mean? So that's a lot. And they had come in, and then it would get like really, really extreme, and then all the energy in the other room would change, and they'd be like, ah, and then you could tell like that baby was just born. So 2 women came and gone in this point in time, like at this point in my labor. Already 2 ladies had come into the hospital, delivered their fucking child, and moved on with their lives. And I wanted to move on too. Oof, yeah, brutal. So I was like, I looked at my nurse and I was like, give me a C-section. Which, by the way, the epidural alone was my biggest fear of life. But at this point, I needed help. I don't know how deep this is, because at this point, when you're dying, you don't care about the time. You don't care about looking at the clock. And when people are in a room witnessing a person dying, they're not thinking about that either. So it just was not on anyone's mind. I ended up getting the epidural, and it scared the shit out of me because I couldn't stop moving. And I needed counter pressure, and I needed, it was hurting so bad. I didn't know what to do. And to get an epidural, it's a needle in your spine. If it goes into the wrong spot, you can literally be paralyzed for life. So I'm trying to rationalize with myself the fact that I need to stay exactly in the position that they want me to. So I'm like, holy shit, what am I going to do? So I'm like, I have my laughing gas mask and I'm putting it on, but I have my eyes closed, and then I forget that it's there because I'm in so much pain. I forget that this thing that's helping me out is even there. So I'm not even using it half of the time. We're going in to do the epidural. I have one of the nurses come in and she's hugging me, and I'm leaning on her. Oh my God. She's like, it's going to take roughly half an hour because the doctor has to get ready. We have to get this prepped. And then once we actually get everything in you and set up right for the epidural, it takes time for it to actually be active in your system. And so this whole process, you can expect half an hour. And then she gives me a waiver to sign. I'm like, I don't care if I'm signing away my life right now. I was like, give me the fucking pen, give me the paper. I'm not reading shit. Let's go, okay? They do that. I'm hugging her. I have this mask. And my bright, I was like, I'm going to put this shit and I'm not taking it off, okay? Gael is there sitting in the chair, borderline gonna pass out. He really doesn't look good, okay? I'm like, fellow might die over here. I think I'm dying over here. And then he has the audacity to be like, you need to breathe oxygen. You can't just keep on breathing this stuff. And I'm like, hold your horses, sir. And this is the only time that I think I was rude in the labor and delivery room directly and intentionally to someone. So I looked at him and I was like, shut the fuck up or get out. Not in that tone at all. Definitely in a different tone. So that was that. And then I had this thing stuck to my face and I was just breathing that and I didn't care. So we got the epidural. It got active in my system and then boom, your girl took a nap. Thank God. Okay. I was out, but I couldn't move because I'm strapped up to everything. I have an IV on this side. I have a monitor on this side. There's so many wires and shit going into me because at this point, the minute that they start inducing you, you need to have continual monitoring for the baby to make sure that everything is okay. And so I'm like strapped up, and then on top of that, I have an epidural. So I'm like really, really worried about not moving. Like I'm worried about this thing in my spine. So I'm just like staying there and not moving. I did my job last night and he's feeling rough. So anyways, I napped for like 30 minutes, and then I like asked the nurses later, I was like, how long was I out for? Like, it felt like I napped for 5 hours. They were like, yeah, it was about 30 minutes. I'm like, wicked. And at this point, I am like fucked up. Like, I did some hard drugs in that room. Your girl is feeling awesome. And every time I close my eyes, I have like full on vivid cartoons. Like, I am inventing new characters. It is wild, okay? I remember I was like in an elevator and there's a bunch of cucumbers in there, and I got my dog, and it was insane. After that, they were like, you can just chill and like wait, and then we're gonna come back later, and then you're gonna push this baby out. And I was like, I remember all of you guys earlier were so fucking scared and nervous and just wanted to get this shit on the road and just get this stuff done. And now they're all super chill. And I couldn't crack the code and fully understand exactly why that was. But anyways, they were like, whatever, take your time, na. And I kept on feeling this pressure. And I was like, what if the baby is coming out right now? And later on, I realized why that's definitely not the case. But I was like, I feel pressure. And I was 10 centimeters dilated. They checked me at that point. They were like, you're 10 centimeters dilated. We're going to go do whatever we're going to go do. And then we're going to come back, and then you're going to push. And I'm like, why don't we just get this done right now? I didn't know what I was signing myself up for. And I didn't know why I was so antsy to just get this like rolling. But at that point, it's probably definitely the drugs talking. Because going into it, like, when you're like, you have a head coming out of your vagina and you have to fucking stay in the ring of fire, that was just brutal, okay? And I was like, I don't know why I said, let's do this. Because I called in one of the nurses and I was like, I feel pressure. Let's move it along. She's like, all right, I'll go get the doctor now. So anyways, we start pushing. And then I'm like, they're telling me I have to push on my back, which was also something I didn't want to do. I wanted to labor in all fours, but I tried it and I was like, fuck that shit. Let me turn over back on my back. It definitely was more comfortable, but it wasn't what I wanted. And then they wanted me to like hold my breath while I was pushing, which also is really hard. They wanted me to breathe in all the way and hold my breath and push for 10 seconds and not let my air out. And then immediately after, like I had to do that for like 3 reps. Well, girl, okay, after 20 seconds of holding my breath, I'm thinking to myself, my uterus is a muscle. You don't train like that. You don't go to the gym and use your muscles and fucking hold your breath for 30 seconds, you fucking retard. So anyways, I was thinking that in the back of my mind, but I was like, whatever they say, let's just get this shit done. Like, I want to get to the goal. I want to get this done. And regardless of me having an epidural, at this point, I realized that shit still hurts, okay? So I was like pushing and I'm like feeling pain again, and I'm like, fuck, I should have just stayed there. Like, I was able to nap. That was way better than this. But anyways, whatever. We get to the point of like, they can see Angelo's head. And then they start asking me fucking weird shit. They're like, want to reach down and touch him? I'm like, no, ew. And then they're like, you want a mirror so you can see? I'm like, no, ew. I haven't seen my cooch in like fucking 5 months, okay? And this is not the first time that we're gonna meet again. That's not how I want it to go, all right? So anyways, that was that. And then I was like, fucking feeling the ring of fire. I'm looking at my doctor. My doctor has a face. And I'm like, I look at her and I'm like, just get to the point. What? And she's like, because at this point, I just don't have patience to fuck around, okay? So I look at her and I'm like, just get to the point. What do you want to say? She's like, I want to do an episiotomy. And I look at her and I'm like, nope. And then I go back down and I'm like, I'm pushing again. Your girl, towards the end of it, I was pushing more than they were asking me to. I was like, let's go. Like, I would catch a contraction. I would ride that wave. They were like, surf it 3 times. I'm like, let's surf it 5. Let's get this shit done. I ended up pushing for an hour and 30 minutes, but it did not feel like an hour and 30 minutes. Towards the end of it, I was like, okay, I need to get really good at this game. That way we can just get this done and I can be done with this whole fucking fucked up situation. So, anyways, the baby came out, and then in my brain, the lighting was like kind of weird, and I just saw like the shadow of like this little thing coming at me, and then boom, it was Angelo, and he was here, and I was like, that was insane. And then she's like talking about delivering my placenta or whatever, and I was like, I have a baby, and this is the first time I held a newborn, and like I've never done this before, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm just having a moment. And then there's like shit and blood everywhere, and there's a towel on my head, and there's people taking pictures, and everyone's like, oh my God. And then I was like, well, this is a fucking vibe. Like, I'm just so glad to have this done. Like, thank goodness. And anyways, deliver the placenta. They're like, want to see it? I'm like, what is with these fucking weird questions? I was like, take a picture for later. That way, if I change my mind, I'll have an option. Looked at that shit. It was pretty cool. So if ever, maybe you should get a picture of your placenta. That way you can peep it later. In the moment, though, you're like, I don't know. In the moment, I was not like, yeah, this is definitely what I want to be doing right now. But anyways, so the doctor was like, okay, I'm going to get you cleaned up, and then we're going to see, like, what we're dealing with, like, the situation, whatever. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So she, like, looks, and I can tell she's, like, super surprised by her facial expression. And she's like, oh, my gosh, like, you don't even have a first-degree tear. All that you have are, like, surface-level abrasions. I wouldn't call them tears. And she's like, I'm so glad you declined the episiotomy. And episiotomy is basically when they go in and willingly cut. Oh, fuck. They go in and cut. Brutal. All right. They go in and cut it. They cut it. That way you don't tear. But that's an automatic 2nd-degree tear on your fucking vajay. So anyways, I was happy that she didn't do that, and I was happy I said no. And then I ended up having nothing but abrasions. I'm going to talk about that later in my postpartum journey video that's going to come out in a few months from now. But that was brutal. Let me just... So everything was hunky-dory. They did all of the random checks with the baby. At this point, I just didn't give 2 shits about anything. I was still on those amazing drugs that they had given me, and I was still tripping out a little bit. They got me up and moved me to a new room, and I turned around and saw how much fucking blood was on the bed that I was in, and I was like, oh my God, that is, like, insane. Like, it was soaked and, like, dripping, and anyways, it was like, oh my God. But then they moved us to our new room in the hospital because you have, like, an actual room where you stay and not just, like, labor and deliver. So they moved us to there, and we had ended up getting a private room. It was beautiful. It was huge. And normally what happens is you actually share a room with other moms. But with other moms come other dads, and then sometimes they have visitors. So I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want all of these people all up in my space. I just did something incredibly hard. I just want peace. So we had a huge room, and our stay was amazing. All of the nurses were incredible. I actually wrote them all, like, little notes after, like, just to say thank you, because I was like, oh my gosh, that was, like, the hardest thing, and they were there, and they were just so great. It was incredible. All in all, it was a wild experience, and I'm so grateful to have the people that I did, and I prayed so much going into this, and I asked for, like, God to choose these people and for them to be the right people and for the experience to go well and in the highest and best ways. And looking back on it, it definitely did go in the highest and best ways because I wanted pain management for when I was pushing, but if everything didn't go the way that it had gone, then I wouldn't have ended up, you know, having the outcome that I did. And so I had pain management for the end because I couldn't think that I was, like, gonna have, going into this whole thing, I'm gonna be fine with no pain management. But the exhaustion and everything, midway through, I was like, I cannot get to the pushing stage because to me, I thought that that was going to be the worst. And it literally feels like you're going to poop every single time you push. Every single time. I was like, oh my God, am I going to poop? And then I'm, like, thinking, like, I'm trying to, like, look partially. I mean, partially, you're like, I think I might be pooping. at that point, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. If I poop, it's not the first time that they've seen shit. So, anyways, my prayers were definitely answered in the craziest ways. I did get exactly what I asked for, but maybe I should have been more specific. However, I did end up getting exactly what I wanted. And all in all, Angelo, it was a boy. We didn't know the sex of the baby the whole pregnancy. So I always called him he, just because I needed to have something to call him. Like, I couldn't be like it or, I don't know, the baby. So I called him he, and my intuition was right. It was a little boy. I thought I was going to have, because I was almost 10 pounds when I was born, and then my boyfriend was 5, so I thought we're going to have in between a 7 and 8 pound baby, and I thought I was going to deliver around 41 weeks. I did deliver exactly on 41 weeks because I went into labor at 40 and 6, and then it was like the next day, and my labor went into the next day. All in all, I had 25 hours of labor. He was 53.5 centimeters long, 8 pounds on the dot. He passed every test with like flying colors, and it was just really good. The first 24 hours was kind of creepy because he kept on choking on like the mucus that he had. And I guess that's completely normal, but when you're a new parent and you're like in there and you just did this and you just worked so hard to get this little potato here, you're like, can you not, like, can you survive, friend? Can you do it on your own? Like, I believe in you. Because it's also like the first time that their body is out in the elements and he has to like breathe on his own, and his digestive system is working and his poop, like all of these things. So other than that, it was like everything is being done for him, you know, through my placenta and through my my body. Like, he's able to breathe and take care of all of those things. So that was really, really worrisome. It was the night, so he was born at 4 p.m. But then when we were going to bed, I don't know if we went to bed directly after that. I think that it was around like 8 or 9 p.m. I think it was getting dark outside because I remember watching the sunset out of the window and it was beautiful. The clouds were beautiful and I was like, oh my God, this is just such an experience. And we were going to bed, and then that's when he started like choking, and I was like, oh my God, and I was panicked. And what was super nice is one of the nurses was like, the nursery isn't completely full tonight, so we don't normally do this, but we can take your baby and watch him overnight. That way both of you can get some rest. And I was like, sign me up for that, because my boyfriend was like, I'm staying up all night and I'm gonna stare at the baby and make sure he's okay. And I was worried, but I was also having faith in like his body, but didn't want to end up making the wrong decision and then regretting it later and have been like, oh, if I just would have stayed up type thing. So I was really thankful for that. And that is our birth story.